5 the most important facts to consider before marriage. Never ever ignore it. Hi friends, welcome to Marriage Realities, a comprehensive relationship channel. Today's video is all about the 5 most important facts you should consider before marrying your soulmate. Are you wondering why you should consider anything before marrying your soulmate when you love him or her ardently? Considering certain important facts before you marry makes you clarify many of your doubts regarding your marriage. When you clarify your niggling doubts before marriage itself, it does away with many unwanted conflicts which might otherwise arise in a relationship. Do you know why most marriages fail in this modern age? Most of you marry out of great expectations but end your marriage in great disappointment. You also marry in haste only to repent in leisure. What could be the reasons behind such failed marriages? You plan your wedding day with meticulous precision. You make elaborate arrangements to make your wedding a pleasurable treat to everyone's eyes. But you ignore many important things you should consider before marrying your soulmate. You do not also realize that after marriage, you and your soulmate will change in many ways. You will be shocked when the rosy days of your love days bids adieu after a few years of your marriage. After your marriage, the pressures and anxiety of tackling your day-to-day life will become predominant and the intense love you had for each other will become dormant. After marriage, you'll be astounded when you encounter many problems with your spouse. And you never imagined in your wildest dreams that you would dislike many things about your spouse. You feel cheated and betrayed by your spouse when unexpected issues crop up between you after your marriage. You literally buckle under the velocity of the continuous relationship problems you face with your spouse. I never knew this sort of a problem would crop up in my married life, you agonizingly tell yourself after your marriage. And unable to bear your disappointments about your spouse, you're more than willing to divorce him or her. You could have easily avoided this needless agony if only you had considered the most important facts about your relationship. It is sad that most of you are so secretive that you hide many things about you before your marriage. Conceal your true financial status. You hide your vices and addictions. The soulmate also does the same. You plunge into a hurried marriage without considering many of the niggling doubts you have about your spouse. Understand the simple fact that when in love, you will easily adjust with your spouse. It is because you're totally blinded by the love you have for him or her. But after marriage, your relationship will come thudding to reality. You will see your spouse in a new light. Sometimes very negative, many a time very disliking too. This sorry state of your relationship could have been avoided if only you had considered certain important factors about your spouse. Shall we now analyze the 5 most important things you should consider before deciding on your marriage? The number 1 aspect to be considered is your comfort level with your soulmate. The comfort level you enjoy with your soulmate is the most important factor to be considered before your marriage. If your spouse is prone to be abusive before marriage, he or she will be abusive after marriage also. If your spouse leeches you of your money before marriage, he or she will leech you of your money after marriage also. If your spouse verbally and physically abuses you before marriage, he or she will continue being so after marriage also. If your spouse is addicted to highly destructive habits like alcoholism or drugs, he or she will continue being so after marriage also. If your spouse has a criminal record, you cannot expect him or her to rectify himself or herself after marriage. If your soulmate has any of these habits, reconsider marrying him or her, as you will be plunging your life into a traumatic experience. When in love, you might feel that you can change your soulmate for the better. But the harsh truth is that you cannot. Your spouse might seem to change for the better, but only for a few months or years. Your spouse will revert to his or her original self, leaving you traumatized to have even considered marrying a person not at all suited to you. When you have a gut instinct that your marriage would not work, do not marry your soulmate. It is always better to part ways before marrying than to have a bitter ending after just a few years of your marriage. Understand the reality that you are not marrying to reform your soulmate. The number 2 aspect to be considered is too much difference in social status. It is all fine to say that love is blind and knows no social status. It is true that when in love, the huge difference in your social status never occurs to you. In fact, you're emotional that you'll be able to give your soulmate a good lifestyle through your elevated social status. You're emotional that you must make your soulmate enjoy life. When your marriage is new, you forget about the affluence you were brought up in the warm glow of love you have for your spouse. But what happens when the sheen of your marriage wears off? You will eventually feel the vast difference in your upbringing. You feel upset to have married someone well below your social status. You now feel that your spouse is very mediocre and not up to your standard. The differences in the lifestyle between you make you feel that you have made a grave mistake in marrying your spouse. With the wear and tear of your relationship, you feel that your married life is far below your expectation. You become highly irritated and strung up by the drudgery around you. Your disappointment leads to bitter fights and harsh arguments between you, and finally a heart-rending divorce. You should consider the vast difference in the social status between you before marrying your spouse. If you have even an iota of doubt that your marriage will not last because of the differences in your social status, it is better to reconsider marrying your spouse. The number 3 aspect to consider is your readiness for marriage. Are you mentally prepared for your marriage? Are you mature enough to handle the many problems you will face in your relationship? If you are a man, you'll be bidding goodbye to your carefree bachelor days after your marriage. You'll be loaded with tons of responsibilities and commitments. You just cannot dodge it. You'll become responsible and committed to make your wife feel secure, financially and emotionally. You can no longer meander about without fulfilling your duties after your marriage. If you feel you're not mature enough for marriage, do not marry. You should wait before you become mature enough to handle your responsibilities and duties. As a woman, you'll be overburdened with multiple duties after your marriage. You'll be battling with endless duties and household chores after your marriage. You'll be needing immense patience to deal with your relationship issues. If you feel emotionally prepared to handle your family duties, go ahead with your marriage. But if you feel unsure and jittery when you think of your future with your spouse, it is better to wait before you are ready for your marriage. The number 4 aspect to be considered is your financial commitments. Almost all couples fight over money matters. Hiding your financial commitments and debts from your spouse before marriage makes him or her feel cheated after marriage. When both hide your money matters from each other, it creates tons of relationship problems between you. Always be open about the loans and debts you have. If there is a lack of transparency in money matters, both feel cheated. Your plans about a home or a car come crashing down. After marriage, you plan a house, car, vacation, or family's financial future, your children's education with the combined income of both. When your plans cannot be materialized because your spouse hid his or her financial commitments and loans from you, you are naturally frustrated and angry. It is the same with your spouse. He or she feels cheated when you hide your financial commitments and loans. It is always better to sort out these niggling financial matters before marriage so that they do not become a thorny issue in your relationship. The number 5 aspect to be considered is the respect meted out to you by your spouse. Respect is the most essential part of any marriage. Mutual respect for one another is very important for your marriage to survive. You might love your spouse intensely, but when you are not respected by him or her, you feel emotionally shattered. When your spouse lets you down before his or her family or friends before marriage, the scenario will continue after marriage also. When your spouse body shames you before marriage, he or she will make deriding comments about your appearance after marriage also. When your spouse takes you for granted before marriage, he or she will continue doing so after marriage also. When your spouse takes pleasure in venting his or her anger on you before others, it might well continue after marriage also. Lack of basic respect is a clear red signal for your relationship. If your spouse feels comfortable in making you feel uncomfortable, he or she will not make you happy when you marry him or her. When you love each other and have mutual respect, you can be sure that you're ready to tie the knot. But when there is no respect between you, it clearly signals that the love between you is very casual and without any depth. If you marry your spouse in haste, you'll only repent in leisure. Do you feel that it is alright to marry even if there are such niggling problems between you? Do you think everything will settle down for the better after your marriage? Never ever think so. The true color of your love will be exposed when you live together as couples. Patience and emotional intelligence in choosing the right person to spend the rest of your life is the trick to a happy married life. Does this video make you understand that you need to iron out certain doubts about your spouse before walking down the aisle? Marriage Realities will have many such relationship eye-openers. Subscribe to my channel to understand your marriage in a new light. Press the bell icon for updates about my latest relationship videos. Make love forever until death do us part your relationship goal.